Rome did not believe forests could defeat legions. To the Roman mind, war was order. Roads cut through wilderness like commands from the gods. Wherever Rome marched, the world was supposed to become Roman. But in the year 9 AD, deep in the wet, shadowed forests of Germania, an army of Rome walked into a place where order meant nothing. 3 legions entered the trees, and almost none came back. The commander was Publius Quinctilius Varus, a Roman governor trusted to turn wild Germania into another obedient province. Taxes would be collected, roads would be built, tribes would bow. Rome had done this before, many times. But Germania was different. There were no clean roads, no open plains, no cities waiting to be organized. Only mud, rivers, hills, rain, and forests, so thick they swallowed sound. The land itself felt hostile. Every tree could hide a warrior. Every trail could become a trap. And among the Germans stood a man Rome thought it understood. His name was Arminius. He had served with Rome. He knew Roman discipline, Roman arrogance, Roman marching patterns. He knew how long a column became when soldiers, wagons, servants, animals, baggage, and camp equipment were stretched across narrow tracks. Most dangerous of all, he knew what Rome believed about itself. Rome believed the enemy was outside its system. Arminius was inside it. He told Varus there was a rebellion nearby, a small uprising, something that needed quick punishment. Nothing Rome could not handle. The legions turned away from safer ground and marched into the forest. That was the first mistake. But it was not the worst. The Roman column was long, heavy, and vulnerable. Soldiers were not formed for battle. They were marching through rain and mud, dragging equipment, guarding wagons, trying to keep order on broken ground. The forest narrowed around them, the sky darkened, the road became worse. Then the Germanic guide disappeared. He claimed he was riding ahead to gather tribal support. Men who had been divided by rivalries were now united by one idea. If Rome could be broken here, Germania might survive. And then the first arrow came from the forest. Not a grand charge, not a heroic clash in an open field, just sudden violence from places the Romans could not see. Spears fizz, horses screamed, wagons jammed, officers shouted orders that died in the rain. The Romans tried to form ranks, but that was the trap. The Germans were not trying to defeat Rome on Roman terms. They were destroying the conditions Rome needed to be Rome. The legions pushed forward, wounded and confused, believing they could escape the ambush if they kept moving. But the forest had no mercy. The mud slowed them, the baggage trapped them, the rain soaked their shields. Every turn of the path offered another attack. By nightfall, the Romans were exhausted. But that was not the end. The next day, they tried again. They attempted to break out, to find open ground, to regain the shape of an army. They struck from slopes, from behind trees, from the edges of marshland. Every time the Romans tried to breathe,
Rome did not believe forests could defeat legions. The Romans began to understand they were not passing through danger. They were inside it. Varus was no longer leading an army through Germania. He was leading a dying column through a battlefield designed by his enemy.
The Germans had chosen the place. The weather helped them. The terrain obeyed them. Rome's strength had become weight. Its discipline had become stiffness.
And almost nobody talks about the psychological horror of that march. Imagine being a Roman soldier in that column.
You cannot see the enemy clearly. You hear them. You hear the screams ahead, then behind, then beside you. You see officers fall. You see standards tilt.
You were told Rome was eternal. But in the forest, eternity is bleeding.
They fought. They endured. They tried to build camps. They tried to protect the standards. They tried to force a path through the nightmare. But every hour cost them more men. And the Germans knew something brutal. They did not need one perfect battle. By the final phase of the disaster, the Roman army was broken into pieces. The column was no longer a machine. It was a procession of survival.
Some fought to the end, some tried to flee, some were captured. The standards of the legions, sacred symbols of Roman power, fell into enemy hands.
For Rome, this was more than a defeat. It was humiliation. Varus, seeing the disaster clears. When the news reached Emperor Augustus, it struck like a wound to the heart of the empire. Ancient writers claim the empire that had marched forward for centuries suddenly learned that expansion had limits. The Rhine would become a boundary. Arminius turned Rome's confidence against itself. He used loyalty as disguise, geography as a blade, weather as precious. In the end, Teutoburg Forest became more than a battlefield. It became a warning carved into memory, a warning that empire